Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the Wellness Mindset with Enolia. That's it. Enolia is the one.
Hello, everyone. We're so excited to be here.
So that's Enolia, and I am Denika Carruthers. And Enolia is today in Angola, and Denika is today in Houston, Texas. And we were just saying how we love the power and the beauty of technology that we can connect with people all over the world through this thing called the internet. And we're so excited to be able to connect with you today to talk about the inner victim. So many people are walking around with this inner victim on the inside of them and don't realize how that inner victim is completely affecting their life in every area. The inner victim, Enolia, it'll affect you in your finances, it'll affect you in your relationships, it'll affect you in your emotions, it affects you in your health. And what a lot of people don't understand is how the story contributes to what you're experiencing in your physical body. And in today's world, where we have so many people who are suffering, some in silence, some out loud, with physical and health conditions, mental and emotional wellness, health, sickness, pain. And it is time for us to address the root cause of all of that shit, shame, hurt, insecurities, and triggers. That's my acronym, y'all.
Yes, it is.
So I do talk shit, and it's an acronym for shame, hurt, insecurities, and triggers. And we need to really start addressing all of the inner core stuff. What you got to say, Mama?
I basically want to say that how do you know that you are in your inner victim? So the question I have for you is, are you stuck in your story? Does your story always amount to the same thing? Oh, how could this happen to me? Why is this happening to me? How did I get here? Why is the same thing repeating over and over again? Maybe different circumstances, but it's the same story. And then your reaction to it is exactly the same.
Yeah, and they are good questions. They're good questions to be asking.
Yes.
They're questions to be asking from a place of self-reflection. Why do I keep experiencing the same thing? What is really going on here? How can I address this? But you're asking those questions from a place of looking for the solution. And like you said, Enolia, it's the story. We all have a story. We have all experienced shit. Shame, hurt, insecurities, and triggers. And our story is as a result of these things that we've experienced. But I really want us to get into where it comes from, right? Because we got a family victim syndrome, y'all, right?
Yes,
where it comes from, and then we'll talk about how we move forward. So let's talk about where it comes from, Enolia.
So when we talk about, well, first of all, it's recognizing that you're a victim, recognizing that you have the victim mentality, right? So where it's come from is that we experience a hurt. We experience something that gives us fear, or experience something that gives us pain, and we want to stay there. And we're not quite sure where it comes from, because we don't always want to acknowledge and admit that we've been hurt as deeply as we have, or that we've been triggered as deeply as we have. Yeah. And that our responses to it is a lot of times denial. It's not our fault. We have no accountability or responsibility to it, because, for every action, there's a reaction. And for every reaction, there's an action.
Yep.
Okay. So we look at this inner part of ourselves, and we reach semi-deep, a little bit deep, because to be vulnerable is a no. No. It has to have happened to me. It couldn't be that I partook and made it happen to myself.
And I want to pause there 1 second, because I think that's important what you said just now, right? We have been so conditioned by society and by culture and by familial experiences, right, to really discount or ignore pain. But pain is an indicator that you need to be looking into something. Pain is also a part of this life process, right? And so when you recognize it, because listen, if you have pain in your body right now, You recognize that. Like, I'm going to the gym right now, y'all, and he is busting, my personal trainer is busting up my legs, and I had to take 2 ibuprofen yesterday to get right? The pain was there, and I felt the pain, but I decided, to push through the pain. But we know when that pain is there, but pain is an indicator that we need to be paying attention to something.
And then the key thing that you said is that you pushed through the pain, right? Now, you could have sat there and dwelled in the pain, right? And every outlook that you have as, oh, I don't want to walk. It's going to be painful. It's painful. Everything that I do is going to be painful. Everything that I am is going to be painful. And when we get stuck here in that pain and we want to grow and we haven't lifted the pain, then we look through everything through tainted eyes.
Yes.
And that's what we mean when we say that we attract stuff to ourselves. Because if you're looking through painful eyes, you're vibrating what? Pain. You're not vibrating a healthy, happy, beautiful life. Yeah. You're vibrating that, oh, I'm suffering. Oh, I'm painful. So what are you going to attract with that vibration?
Yes. And you're vibrating the pull down of pain. So I often say that pain can pull you down or pain can propel you. You can use pain as a strength. You can use pain as a tool. Let me tell you something. How many years ago was it? Plenty years ago, almost 30 years ago. When I from my first husband, right? And I told him in the morning it was over. By 12 o'clock midnight, I was looking at my sister's dead body in a morgue. She had been killed in a car accident. I was in a lot of pain. I had a lot of story because my husband was cheating with 2 women that I found out in the morning. And I'm looking at my sister's dead body. My youngest sister at 29 years old, her dead body in the morgue at night. I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of story. And yes, I was in a very dark place for a while. But I chose to see the glory in this story because let me tell you, Enolia, I am a firm believer that everything that happens in our life experience is divine. It is aligned with purpose and it is there to support us in our purpose. So again, like I said, we all have a story. You can either choose to focus on the sting in your story, or you can choose to reframe that story and find the glory in it. But when you're operating in that inner victim, in that victim syndrome, you are choosing to repeat and recycle the story. And that is why you keep having the same experiences in different places.
And I want to keep going with that. Why do we repeat? Because we haven't necessarily learned the lesson. So what happens is that we turn around, we do something different, and oh, life is good. I got through that story. And then we come up with circumstances. And even though the characters have changed, and even though the location or the event has changed, it's the same thing. And what is being proposed to you is to have and to make a different decision. Because when you make a different decision, you get a different outcome. And a lot of people will not do that. We will make what's comfortable and that decision that we know that's familiar, because that different decision represents new territory. That different decision represents a different accountability, a different responsibility to others and responsibility to ourselves. And what is easier to do is to make the same decision, to put on the same coat of fear, to put on the same coat of comfortableness, stuck in the story, and every reason to basically say, well, it happened to me. I'm the victim. I'm the victim.
But it's not comfortable. I say this all the time. You uncomfortable in your comfort zones. It is not comfortable, but you are settling. And when you give yourself permission to come face to face with the fact that you are the master of your fate and the captain of your soul, everything that you experience in your life is as a result of your thoughts and your expressing. Right? We have power within, but most people are creating their life in default rather than intentionally. Listen, if you have pain and it doesn't feel good and it feels uncomfortable, then you need to, like Enolia said, make a different decision. I grew up hearing this. Maybe many of you heard the same thing. Same shit, different day. Right? That's a confession. So you're giving the shit permission to be in this new day. And if you say it tomorrow, it'll be in tomorrow as well. You often And as women, we experience this a lot, right? We render ourselves powerless to the circumstance because we're conditioned with the thought and the belief system that we got to show up for everybody else and we can't show up for ourselves. We're selfish if we look out for ourselves. Let me tell you something. It is not selfish when you look out for yourself, and it is not selfish when you put yourself first. It is called self-love and self-respect, because you cannot give to anybody else what you do not have for yourself. And this is why it's important to face and heal that inner victim, because those of you who are parents, you are transferring that inner victim, that belief system, that thought process onto your children, because our children do as we do. They don't do as we say.
You're absolutely right. So I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that many of us, not only do we not put ourselves first, but we play the martyr. We play the martyr role and basically say, oh, but society expects me as the mother to be able to put my family first. I have to put and escalate my children first. So instead of saying that my children and my spouse walk with me, they walk over me, on me, I escalate them up. And what is it that is so wrong about being on par with your family? That what you bring to the table is just as valuable and important as what your spouse does and what your children do, so that you collectively, and I like to call it from an indigenous point of view, are standing in circle, right? No one's above you, no one's behind you, no one's below you, no one's in front of you. You all are standing equal par on circle so that you can figure it out, so that you can work together collectively. So these are important pieces, is how you view yourself and how you value what you bring to the table, so that you can let go of that victim mindset.
Absolutely. How you view yourself. Let's talk about that, because people
yes.
You teach people, we teach other people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves. We teach people what our value and our worth is by how we present ourselves to the world. I'm just going to say this because it's coming up right now. So I grew up in religion, right? And one of the reasons why I don't align with religion today, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious, is because I find the teachings to be so limiting and suppressive, right? So one of the things that I grew up hearing in church is that I was born in sin and shapen in iniquity, right? And I remember very specifically when I had a conversation with Spirit one day, and I said, listen, if I am here to elevate women and to show them their power and they're amazing, we need to start right here, because this is a problem. And a lot of people who I talk to, are in the church or who grew up in the church. I'm born in sin. So that make it seem like I'm just ain't shit from the time that I'm born. I got all kinds of problems and issues. And Spirit said to me very loudly, go and read that scripture. So I went and I read it. And at the end of the reading, Enolia, I recognized David was having a piss poor day. David was in his victim mode. David was in his feelings. He was feeling like everybody was against him and things was bad from the time that he was a child. And David's confession of himself was feeling like a victim and feeling piss poor. I was born in sin and shapen in iniquity. And that's another thing that I really want us to talk about. Stop taking other people's confession of themselves and adopting it as your own. Even though you might have grown up in a family that was restrictive, that was judgmental, that was criticizing, that was rejecting, you don't have to continue to live that story for yourself. You can make a different decision. You get to define yourself. And when you don't know who you are, when you don't know your power, when you don't know your purpose, you give other people, the world and everybody in it, I say, the power to define you, the power to limit you, the power to make you feel worthless because you don't understand your worth.
And then the other part of this is I'm going to take it from religion to culture. And there are many cultures that deem that you are in a certain role and responsibility, and that's all you're going to be seen as is in that role. And if that role is a lowly role, that's it. You have to adopt that. And it's time for you to wake up. If you get up wanting to surpass that role, you're supposed to surpass that role. If you get up knowing that you feel suppressed, you're supposed to eliminate what is suppressing you. So these perceptions that we have of what a role and a responsibility of that role is supposed to be, and that's the only role I can fulfill. If you don't dream a beautiful dream and dream past that role, then that's all you're ever going to be, is stuck in that role. So let's dream past these roles. Let's introduce what it is that our heart's desire actually has and move forward. Because if you and your heart desires for women who are in cultures that are very suppressive, that you want education, then you're supposed to have education. If your heart desires that you're supposed to get a group of women together and study together, then you're supposed to get a group of women together and study together. And you're supposed to take the chance. And you're supposed to better yourself because you have a message and a purpose to deliver. And it's above and beyond this role that you have been suppressed to.
Yes.
And then the other piece of this too is that complementary families, but to bring our families as the matriarchs of our families, something new to consider and learn and grow together. There is no such, my mom used to say, there's no such thing as no. There can be a such thing as not that way, but we can approach it. There's always a way to approach it.
And I say it like this, you always have the right to change your mind. You always have the right to do something different if it's not working for you. But what I heard Spirit just say to share is you need to exterminate the external voices to eliminate the internal limitations. Let me say that again, because Spirit said to say it. You need to exterminate the external voices to eliminate the internal limitations. You can do, be, and have whatever you desire, but you will never accomplish more than what you're experiencing right now by staying in the internal victim mode, by staying in the woulda, shoulda, coulda, by staying in the blaming everybody, their dog, their cat, and their rat for your situation and your circumstances. And listen, I acknowledge that many of us experience a lot of shit, shame, hurt, insecurities, and your shame, hurt, and insecurities will trigger different emotions and responses in you. We have all experienced shit as children. I did. I felt extremely rejected, extremely criticized by my father, never felt like I was good enough, right? My father used to bribe me to lose weight. I suffered with self-esteem and body issues for a long time until I decided to have a conversation with myself and tell myself how beautiful and amazing I am. You don't have to adopt other people's stories as your own. And if the life that you're living, if the story that you're telling or thinking feels limiting, then you have a responsibility to yourself to get to the other side, to heal the victim, to face the shit so you can erase the shit, right? And decide that you are worthy of healing.
And until you do, when you walk that walk, then life becomes a walk to the vision that you hold for yourself. So if you start holding yourself in a vision of your success, in a vision of your accomplishment, then life becomes that. And yes, you may have to navigate through some more shit, shame, hurt, insecurities, and what's triggered it. But what happens is that you become the master of your domain. And if you don't, and this is my thing, if you don't dream a beautiful dream for yourself, you will be dreamt. You will become the antithesis of what everybody perceives of you and judges you to be. Yeah. So until you hold that vision for yourself, establish who it is, what it is that you want in your authenticity, no matter what that looks like, and start making your life that focal point to get to it so that life can move you through the story of what other people perceive of you and move you through the story of that victimhood so that you can move to the story of destined greatness. So, yeah. Denika, I want to open it up to people who might have questions for us. Yes. And we just wanted to let you know that we will take your questions. This is a perfect time because you've heard a lot of what we're feeling and what we're sharing with you based on our own experiences and workings with that will help you move past that inner victim.
Yes. And one of the things, as we're waiting for questions to come in, one of the ways that you can begin this journey is by reframing your impossible to I'm possible. Because again, your perception is what creates your reality. And all we need to do is just put an apostrophe between I and M and change impossible to I am possible. Because whatever you think you can, you can. But whatever you know you can accomplish, that's an intention. You're already there. You're already there. And you have to be willing to do the work. So there's a question there that says, how can I change my story? How can I change? Well, the first thing you begin changing your story by desiring to change your story.
Your story, right? And recognizing that you're caught in one. Recognize what it feels like, what it tastes like, what it senses like. And if it doesn't feel good to you, understand the boundaries of it. Okay? If my story is that, I can't get past this freaking job. This job drives me nuts. I'm so angry when I go to work. You're not supposed to be working there. If it's relationship and there's a relationship that's just making you miserable and you are not happy in that relationship, if that relationship, once you've shifted the vibration of that relationship. And once you've shifted, looking internal to yourself, what happens is that those who are not conducive to your highest and greatest good will eventually either fall away or fall in alignment. Fall away or fall in alignment. And if they don't fall away and fall in an alignment and they're still hanging on to you, it's you that finds the core strength to walk away.
Yes. And if it don't fit, don't force it. Just relax and let it go. How you want it doesn't mean it will be so. And you have to recognize you cannot change anybody else. The only person you can change is yourself. So if your story is being defined and dictated by someone else, and if it is subtracting from you more than it is adding to you, it is a liability. And you have a responsibility to yourself to pursue peace, to pursue joy, to pursue happiness, to pursue success, because nobody is responsible to make you happy. Nobody is responsible to make you feel peace. Happiness is a state of mind. Joy is a state of being. If you don't have that within you, if you're miserable, if you're tormented on the inside, if you're wretched, that's my word I like to use, then nobody else is going to be able to help you, right? And in order for you to let go and live a true, authentic life, you have to first be willing to be honest with yourself. Because let me tell you something. You can never lie to me without first lying to yourself. And your lie does not affect me. Your lie does not affect me. Your lie does not affect me. If I say it 3 times, y'all, I really want y'all to get it. Your lie affects you because your lie is within you and your lie is coming through you. So the first thing you need to do to live a true, authentic life is to be honest with yourself. Now, it's difficult for you to be honest with yourself when you don't know who you are and what you want. And so if you don't know who you are and what you want, I'm going to suggest that you stop there. How can you let go? By making a freaking decision that this is no longer serving me. Again, if it is subtracting from you more than it is adding to you, it is a liability that is disabling you. And you have to be willing to tell that truth to yourself. You have to be willing to recognize and be honest with the fact that, man, listen here, maybe this can't fix. I'm a firm believer everything that is broken cannot be fixed. And some things that are broken should not be fixed. Sometimes if it's broken, it's more problem to fix it. Go and get you a new one, right?
And I want to compliment exactly what you're saying too. It's everything that Denika has said. And I want you, so take a pause. Take a pause, look in the mirror, and basically say, I'm lying to myself. How am I lying to myself? So that you can see the stories that you are telling yourself, so that you can be honest with yourself. Because first of all, we convince ourselves, oh, I want to work at this job. Oh, I want to work at this job. But we're lying to ourselves. We know good and well we don't get up in the morning smiling, going, I can't wait to go to work, right? So like Denika said, be honest with yourself, but question it. What are the things that you're glossing over, making excuses? Oh, well, I really don't like this job, but I have to do it because everybody's depending on me. It doesn't give me room for change. No, we pull everybody together and say, you know what? I want to change my job. This might mean that some of us are going to have to work and compensate for this while I make the change, while I make the transition. This may mean that certain things have to be let go because I'm making a transition, but I need to make this change. Let's not use the excuses to say that, oh, well, I'm not lying to myself. I just have these dependencies. I have these responsibilities. No, that's part of lying to yourself, because you're giving yourself the excuses to stay stuck in the story.
And another thing that I would add to that is you have to face your fears, because Enolia talked about a job, but how many people stay in a relationship because, oh, well, I've been in this relationship for 20 something years. He's all I know. She's all I know. Or I'm not attractive like I used to be, so I don't think I'll find somebody else. Or I have these children. No one's going to want me with children. You have to face your fears. You have to come face to face with your fears. And you also have to ask yourself, is this a lie? Or is this the truth? Because I'm going to tell you what, I got 3 children and I got men knocking my door down, right? And I'm 54 this week. I feel good. I feel good. Dun, I knew that I would, y'all. Because you know, on the other side of a broken marriage, I used to sing Destiny's Child, I'm a survivor. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to work harder. Whatever it is that you need to tell yourself, whatever it is that you need to give yourself. So we have a question here. What tools can I use to make my story better? There are so many tools. But the first thing I would say is you have tools within you. Change your story and come face to face with how you look at yourself. How do you view yourself? How do you talk about yourself? What are the thoughts that you have concerning yourself? Because if those are negative thoughts, if those are victim thoughts, if those are painful thoughts, you got to start with your thoughts, because your feelings are always an extension of what you're thinking about. And if you don't have control over your own mind and your own thoughts and your own feelings, then you don't have control over your life. You're giving your power away to other people. And that's what victims do. They give their power away to other people. So, you know, worst case scenario, you might have been victimized by somebody, right? There are a lot of us who have been. But as long as you continue to stay absorbed in that sting, you continue to give the power to your victimizer. Sometimes you listen, what tools can I use to make my story better? Sometimes you got to get pissed. Sometimes you got to say enough is a freaking enough. No to this shit. No to this shame, hurt, insecurities, and triggers. I am going to figure out how to be the greatest version of myself. I am going to figure out how to be happy. I am going to figure out how to heal. And if you acknowledge that you don't know where to start, that's where people like myself and Enolia come in.
I would love to add to that too. I want to talk about some of the tools that you possess within you. Now, Denika talked about the power of your voice, really, because your thoughts, your voice, and standing in your authenticity, our bodies are made up of water. Water has memory. How you think of yourself is echoed within your being, okay? This is the difference between people who hold disease and people who don't, all right? Because memory in water, our bodies are 65 to 70% water. Fear. What is your fear line? What is your bubble of fear? Do you live your life in fear? Release the fear. Expand your bubble. And when I say bubble, that is the limitations that you put all around yourself to say, well, here I'm comfortable, here I'm not. Here I'm comfortable, here I'm in fear, right? You need to expand that bubble so that you are not in fear or leading your life in fear. Judgment. Do you take on everybody's judgment? Let people's judgments go. Talk to the hand. The judgments should be reflected back. No one has the right to judge me. I am who I am. This is me. This is how I am. And this is how I work. I don't need to give away my power, as Denika had said earlier, to turn around and make your judgment my belief. It's not my belief because it's not my stuff. That's why it's a judgment or perceptions in that matter, right? How do you handle forgiveness? Have you forgiven yourself? Have you forgiven yourself for being in this situation? Have you forgiven yourself for maybe not having enough information or knowledge that hurt you in the long run? But forgive yourself, because forgiveness is the way to freedom. Yeah. It is a freeing way so that you don't look at life through the eyes of tainted stories, that, oh, all I'm ever going to be is this because this happened to me in the past, because I haven't forgiven the person, and the person not because of what they did or didn't do, but for yourself.
Yes. That part, Enolia, and I want to reiterate that. You have to be willing to forgive, because your unforgiveness is not affecting the other person. That is not taking anything away from them. That is not causing them to lose sleep. That is completely affecting you. And let me interject this right here, because I hear a lot of people use this statement. Well, I'll forgive, but I'm not going to forget. You don't forgive. You don't forget. What you're saying by making that statement is, I am choosing to hold on to this. When you truly forgive, you don't remember that incident. You don't continue to harbor on it. If something happens, it might trigger a memory, but you will recognize when you truly forgive that you no longer have an emotional attachment even to the memory. And so you have to be willing to recognize the fear. You have to be willing to recognize the victim mode. You have to be willing to recognize the story. So somebody asked about the tools. Then you have to be willing to release it. Just make a decision to let it go. And then you have to be willing to reframe it, because nature abhors a void. When you take something away, I always tell my clients, don't just take something away. You want to replace it with something, right? Because nature abhors a void. Nature has a tendency to just fill up empty spaces. So you have to recognize, you have to release, and you have to reframe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the other piece of this too is recognize your self-limitations. Are you preventing you from moving through the story? And I'm going to say it again. Are you preventing you from moving the stories? Because we love to place blame everywhere else, right? Oh, I'm afraid because this person might be there. Oh, I'm afraid because this circumstance might happen, right? But the thing about it is that it is a safe place for us to be in fear sometimes also. And we have to recognize within ourselves that we have to physically change and mentally change, and in our hearts change the story and move past it. Stop letting the past define your here and now. Yeah. Stop letting the past shape your future. See, the whole point in learning a lesson is that we experience things in our past, we learn the lesson, and then we take those lessons that we gleaned so that as we move in the future, we don't go, oh my God, there it is. That's the lesson I learned, so I will not repeat it.
Right.
I will not make that same mistake, or I will not allow that same circumstance to define me because I've already been through that pain. But if we take our past and we allow that to shape our futures, this is why we repeat things.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead. One of the things that I do personally is I literally have a conversation with fear, and I have a conversation with pain. If I experience pain in my body, I literally have a conversation with it. What do you need from me in order for us to move through this? Because pain is not a natural part of the experience. It's things that we experience, but like I said, it's not a natural part. I talk to the fear. What is it that you are coming to teach me? What is it that I need to be recognizing? What is it that I need to be addressing and facing in this moment? Because again, like Enolia said, fear comes up, and sometimes fear is there as an alert, right? Like you feel a fear about going down a dark alley. Your soul, your inner being, your inner knowing, your higher self is telling you, stop, hammer time. Listen, I think of a song for almost everything that I say, but something inside of you is saying stop. It's dangerous, right? So fear is healthy sometimes, but you don't want fear to overtake you. You don't want pain to overtake you. You don't want someone else to overtake you, right? Because you do get to choose. You do get to choose, but you have to first, again, I'm going to go back to this. You have to know who you are and you have to decide what you want, because whatever you focus on, you give permission to be a part of your experience. So if you're focusing on victim, if you're focusing on what everybody else has done to you, you're giving permission for victim to be your main energy, you know. And sometimes you got to be willing to just release things. Sometimes you have to be willing to walk away. If it don't fit, don't force it. Just relax and let it go. Sometimes you just have to say, you know what? Bleep it. I deserve better. I desire better. And I believe this. If you desire it, you deserve it. And if you deserve it, that means that you can have it. But if you are experiencing something in your life that you don't like, that you don't want, then you are responsible to yourself to make some changes. We have a question, Enolia. You want to address that one?
Yes. What if you repeat patterns? Well, first of all, you need to recognize the fact that you're in a pattern. Okay. And when you understand and you recognize that you're in a pattern, you need to dissect the pattern to say, okay, why is this happening? And what is this stemming from? So, for example, I'll give you a pattern that I had, right? I was in my corporate job and I basically had a scenario where, you know, I would get this boss and the boss would ask me to do this, 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 and this. And then I would fall out with my boss. And then all of a sudden it was like, it's his fault. It's her fault. And I can't work for them. I don't want to be with them. You know, no, it's not my fault. It's their fault. And you go up and you get a new boss. And then all of a sudden the circumstance happens again. It's his fault. It's her fault. I'm the victim here. What happened? What happened? Why is this happening to me? Why me? I get another boss. And the third time I couldn't go, it's his fault. It's her fault. It's a pattern. And it's like, okay, what am I doing by which this pattern is repeating itself over and over and over again? And the bottom line is that what it was that I didn't want to be there. I did not want to be in this job anymore. And so what I was doing was sabotaging myself, whereas I was doing work, but was it my best work? It was passable. It was passable work, right? But I was stuck. How could I get out of this job? I couldn't. I had the responsibilities of this and responsibilities of that. And when I got up in the morning, I was not happy. But I convinced myself that I had to be there based on these responsibilities, based on these circumstances, based on everybody else's happiness except my own. But what was happening is that when your soul calls out to say it does not want this, and you keep making excuses about why you have to be there, you are in a pattern.
Yeah.
And you are in a pattern that is repeatable until you make a different decision.
Yeah.
So recognize the pattern, understand that it is a pattern, go to the core of why that pattern is repeating. Because there's something you're not honoring in your soul.
Yes. Yeah.
And when then don't lie to yourself.
Yeah.
Tell yourself the truth. Denika, you said it before. Be honest with yourself. And then at least when you have the honest answer, then you can start addressing changing the circumstance. Yeah. And at least you know that, okay, the honest answer is this. What I keep doing is this. Here I am at that crossroads. How can I make a different decision?
Yes.
Go ahead.
And ask yourself, am I taking responsibility for my life, for my actions, or am I casting blame? So Enolia talked about a pattern in the career. I'm going to talk about a pattern in relationships. So I shared with you that my father was very rejecting. I couldn't stand my father growing up. I always felt like I was rejected and criticized by my dad, that nothing I could do was right. Okay. And yes, that was my experience as a child. But when I became an adult, I married my father twice because I still had this focus on everything that he had done. If he had been the father that he should have been, if he had told me when I was getting married to my first husband that I shouldn't get married to my first husband because he saw him urinating on the side of the church, right? But didn't say anything to me, you know, blaming. But I saw what was in my first husband. and I chose to lay down with him and get pregnant, because that's really the reason why I got married, right? So when I learned to take responsibility for the fact that I entered into these 2 marriages from a desperate place rather than a decisive place, then I was able to take responsibility for my actions, stop blaming my daddy for everything that he did, and even stop blaming the people who I got married to, because I made the choice. You make the choice in your life.
Yes, you
If
do.
you're an adult, you make the choice in your life. If you're in an abusive relationship where you feel like you don't have any choice, you need to get out. You need to call somebody to get you out. They do have organizations that will come and get you out. But you need to take responsibility for your happiness. So if you are casting blame and not taking responsibility, that's one of the places that I would suggest that you start, because people don't really do things to us. We either allow it or we don't allow it. Make a decision to stop allowing some stuff that you have been allowing up until this point.
Absolutely. And we're at a point where soon that we're going to be ending the show. So if you have any other questions, we welcome them. We want to spend the next 5 or 10 minutes more answering any further questions that might be out there. We're enjoying the questions that are coming so far. So thank you so much. Is there anyone who doesn't have an inner victim? If they say that they don't have an inner victim, they're telling you stories. All of us do. All of us have to face this. Some of us face it sooner rather than later. Some of us never face it. You know that saying that says you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You cannot make somebody face their inner victim. They have to face their inner victim. They have to recognize that they're in a pattern. They have to recognize that they're in a story. They have to recognize that they're lying to themselves or not being honest with themselves. And they have to recognize that they want something different in life, that it always happens to me isn't the status quo, that life can be better. And then they want to be able to, or we want to be able to rise to the occasion, step up to the fact that we have the power within us to change our lives.
Yes, yes. And it is not the responsibility of others to save you.
No.
Let's say that again. It is not the responsibility of others to save you. If you know that you're in pain, you have to be willing to communicate that. If you know that you're operating in victim mode, you have to be willing to move beyond or move through that story. And if you don't know how to do it yourself, it is your responsibility to seek out the help and to seek out the healing. So here I'm just going to inject that because like I said, your inner victim will affect every area of your life. And so many people feel like they can't do anything better because they're struggling in their finances, they're struggling in their relationships, their emotions, or their health, right? If you are serious today, if you recognize some things about yourself based on our conversation today, and you are serious about moving through, you are serious about being, doing, and having all that you desire, because you can, I promise you. Like Enolia said, we all suffer with the inner victim, right? We, like I say it this way, we all have shit, shame, hurt, insecurities, and troubles. The same way we shit every day. Like our body is always producing waste matter every day, right? Life happens every single day. So there are things that you are going to face, but you do have the power to move through it. And one of the things that I teach my clients is how to reclaim your power. How to reclaim your power. Stop giving your power away to other people. Stop waiting for other people to validate you or make you feel okay. Your responsibility to yourself is to save yourself. If you know that you're in a situation right now that is harming you, that's destroying you mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, right? It's your responsibility. And so, I'm going to invite you to go to DenikaCarruthersLive.com or DenikaCarruthers.com. If you feel like, you resonate with me and you're like, man, listen, I just need some help. Denika is the one I want to contact. Contact me on my website. If you look at Enolia and you say, man, I just love that smile, the beauty of her. I connect with the ancestors. I connect with that shamanic energy she got going on. Enolia, how do they contact you, Enolia? How do they get in touch with you?
They contact me at www.enolia.live. That's www.enolia.live. So what you're witnessing in front of you are two powerful coaches, two powerful people. Denika, you have specialties. Share with them your specialties, and I'll share with them mine.
Well, my specialties are mental and emotional wellness on the other side of rejection, abandonment, grief, loss, and abuse. I help you to let the shit go, shame, hurt, insecurities, and triggers, and reclaim your power. So I'm a soul therapist. I work at the place of soul. There's not a lot you need to tell me, y'all. I'm very intuitive. I get downloads all the time. So I tell my clients, be honest with me because spirit will call you out, right? But, it's very important for me to create a very safe and sacred, loving space for my clients, because again, listen, we could all sit down, me, you, and Enolia could sit down in a room, and I'm sure we have similar stories. We've all been through stuff. And one of the things that I've come to recognize, Enolia, and I know you have as well, is that women reach you differently.
Yeah.
And we need to start trusting each other, because what we need is in the divine feminine energy, and I flow in the divine feminine energy. And Enolia, I know you do too, so share with them your specialties.
So my specialty is actually understanding personal development needs. I go also to the soul level, but I also work with energy. So I can see what energy has to shift. I can work with you to work through your story and to transform what it is and how you vibrate and how you come to terms with the vision that you hold for yourself, and then how to get there. So as you do that, and because I've worked with indigenous cultures all over the world, I understand that if you are a person that is heavy in tradition and heavy into culture, how to have that transformation and take that transformation through your traditions and through your with the respect of your traditions and with the respect of your tribe that you may come with. Yeah. So that whole piece of personal development, inner development, and how to stand in your power and your authenticity, how to stop lying to yourself, how to make sure that you hold a beautiful vision for yourself and then make life that walk to that vision. So we really do very much overlapping things from a soul perspective, but just have different approaches. And that's the beauty about being individuals. But the bottom line collectively is that we are here to help you. To help you find that better version of who you are and who you want to be.
Yes. And if you don't know who you are, I'm also a published author. My book can be purchased on Amazon.com. It is entitled, Who in the Hell Do You Think You Are? Highly recommend that. And Enolia has just released her first book. So girl, you better tell the people where they can get your book from.
Yes. My book can also be attained over Amazon.com. And I share my story so that you can learn from my story and hopefully not have to make the same mistakes. So the name of my book is Enolia, How I Found My Sovereign Voice Working with My Grandmother Elder. And I also have the compatible workbook that comes with it, which is called Discover Your Sovereign Self. So what I basically do is, for my book, you read the story, you read my story of what it took for me to transition my life. And then what you can basically do is get the compatible journal. And what we do is you learn the lessons learned from each chapter of my story. And then I ask you personal reflecting questions on each chapter. And then I give you affirmations also. And not only can you do that and work with that, but what I will be doing is I will be actually holding a workshop series that will allow and afford you the opportunity to help have me guide you through the workbook aspects of that journal. So you can find out about that information on my website. And if that doesn't move you or urge you and you just want to do work on your own, I basically have a masterclass video series where you can do all of your work online, and you can have access to me once a week where we just touch base. I answer any questions, but you do the work on your own. So again, that can be found on my website at www.enolia.live. We can work with you in person, online, any way that you want.
Yes. And I actually have a course that's starting on April 16th, How to Master Your Mind to Attract Money. So you can find more information out about that at www.denikacarruthers.com. This was amazing, Enolia. I always love when we get together and we just share pearls of wisdom and help people, girl. Help them to release the shit.
Because it is our time. It is our time. It is time for you to step in your authenticity. It is time for the power of your voice to be heard. It is time to stop taking that back seat and stop being silent. It is time.
Yes.
You deserve to be seen, heard, and loved.
Because you are worthy and you are enough. Every day, all day.
Always. And you have just encountered another podcast of the wellness mindset coming from Denika Carruthers and Enolia.
Yeah, and we need to tell them that our next podcast is going to be the third Thursday in April, and we're going to be talking about the imposter syndrome. So if you feel like you're not authentic, you feel like you're doing some faking it until you can make it, because that don't work, right? Then definitely join us for our podcast on the third Thursday of this month, The Wellness Mindset with Enolia and Denika.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Have a great day, South Africa.
We love you.